Frieren changes lives. This is the story of how a boring anime turns people's lives. It's not the most sentimental anime, the story is simple, the setting is familiar, but still, Frieren has been described as a masterpiece, thought-provoking, and more than that, is a show that touches people. Frieren changed my life, it helped me getting through stuff. Now I realize the greatness of it and armpit, and I am one of these people. This is the story of how Frieren captured our attention, broke the internet, and changed people's lives. Let's talk about it! Well, I need to talk about it because I feel guilty about the last video. In the previous video, I read negative reviews on Frieren, and it's worthless. Some of the reviews are understandable, but mostly just a cesspool that doesn't mean anything. And worse, it's more about people making side remarks that if you enjoy this anime then your taste is bad, you're a beta. You know, that kind of stuff. Less about the anime and more about, I don't know, I don't understand these people. But just know that Frieren is not without negative points. It can be boring if you don't know what you get into, the jokes are kinda repetitive, and sometimes the flashbacks feel rather forced. But despite that, Frieren hits the right spot for lots of people. See the positive reviews on Mal and you'll get it. It's the highest rated anime for a reason, despite the flaws. I think it means something, and there's nothing more obvious than looking at myself. Frieren flips my worldview upside down. Now to understand that, you need to know a little about me first. The thing you must understand is that I'm a creator, not a full-time one, but I still make money from content about Frieren. Well, mostly for coffees, because shorts revenue, we don't talk about shorts revenue. But of course, we are not talking about financial stuff here. Just want to put it there so that you understand that there are some unavoidable bias here. And another thing about me, which I want to start the story with, despite my love for Frieren series, I never really resonate with Himmel. I mean, Himmel's ASMR is something else, let me tell you. Just hear this.
フリーレン、君は覚えていないだろうけれども、昔僕は一度だけ君と会ったことがある。
But no matter how the anime and manga present Himmel as a down-to-earth guy, just with some narcissistic tendency, Himmel still feels distant to me. It feels too good to be true. And that's why there's one character that I actually adore so much, the one character that I always look forward to when I picked Frieren manga a couple of years ago. So it all started in chapter 10, episode 5, when Frieren and Frieren meets a so-called hero of a village, an apprentice of the strongest warrior named Stark. Man, I adore this kid so much, for a rather uncomfortable reason, but I think people can relate. So about Stark, in a nutshell, Stark is all about destroying expectations, in a good and bad way. When first shown, we soon find out that Stark, the so-called hero of a village, is basically a missing baby chicken losing his way. He cries and asks for help from Frieren, who is a stranger at that point, and you guessed it, Frieren's expectations were in pieces. Well, understandable. Then in episode 6, they show us how truly capable Stark is by single-handedly destroying a dragon in 2 hits. So yeah, Stark destroys expectations, that's kind of his thing. But of course, that's not the only thing about Stark. But let's get back to that later, and let's talk about me. I am someone that you can call an egotistical people pleaser. That means I enjoy solving people's problems because it fits my pride. Totally, no sugarcoating it. Some people like to call it the Superman complex. You can call it that in this context. Let's not get too scientific here because that's not the entire point here. The point is, it makes everything complicated because now you have some ridiculous expectations and it gets tougher and tougher over time. That's usually when, for me, my performance takes the hit because it gets physically and mentally tiring. It creates a bigger gap between your ideal self and your real self. And not just in helping others, I do think, in general, I have a low congruence. So overanalyzing, running in circles, not just in helping others, is kind of a daily happenstance for me. And of course, because of that, I lost opportunities, I don't perform as best as I hope. So yeah, that's basically the thing that I haven't even explained congruence, haven't I? Oh, yeah, I'm sorry about that. This video is very lightly scripted. So congruence! Congruent in psychology is how close your real self to your ideal self. Well, of course, the closer, the better. The problem with Stark's perceived real self is comically incorrect. So for him, it feels really hard to keep up with his ideal self. And it affects him tremendously. For example, if you remember in episode 9, Stark is somewhat deliberately holding himself against Linnea. He goes defensive, even though we know it only takes one lightning strike for Stark to win at the end. And then also the dragon in episode 6. He was stuck in that village for 3 years. 3 years! And then Frieren came, gave him some nudge, some urgency, and then he soloed the dragon. It's an extreme example, but man, relatable. So when I read about Stark years ago, it's like looking at another version of me. And it's actually the first thing that kind of bound me to Frieren when I read the manga for the first time. Seeing Stark develop over time, although not gonna lie, Stark getting wrecked in basically every single fight is kind of his thing now. It's just heartwarming for me. That was in 2022, I think. And fast forward to 2023, Frieren anime was released. Look, don't get me wrong, the manga is great, but the anime though, it makes it several times more impactful. One of the reasons is Frieren doesn't lie. Let me start this part with one undeniable fact. Frieren is an addict. Frieren told her apprentice to attack a dragon for one grimoire. Frieren massacred a bunch of dragons for a tongue twister spell. Frieren tested a cursed face on herself. For what? I don't know, she just did. Despite all the so deep reasoning related to Himmel, Flamme, and her sublimation of sexual tension, I don't care. Frieren is an addict. Okay, let's tone it down. Frieren's life revolves around magic. She's a mage, she researches magic, she does crazy things for grimoires. But when Frieren was asked about how much she loves magic, the answer is kinda uninspiring. Yeah, so. And what Frieren has experienced is the disease of humanity. Let me explain what I mean by that through Frieren. Frieren is a mage, first-class mage in fact, but in the earlier episode, her early explanation of why she learns magic is actually more pragmatic than anything.
私は一人で生きていける力さえ手に入れば何でもよかったのです。
So in her head at the time, it was more of a necessity than love. Not to mention that Frieren was adopted by Haita and Frieren just got roped by Haita into Frieren's life. It's a combination of necessity and circumstances. There's no love, no obsession, no passion in her answer back then. I know that we get more context about why Frieren learns magic in the first place right after that, but before going there, there's actually an interesting conversation happened in episode 23 between Frieren and Zense. Zense, in episode 23, finds Frieren to be strange.
What the dog do?
She's really young, really good at magic, can be considered as a prodigy even, but in Zense's eyes, Frieren doesn't seem enthusiastic about magic, and Frieren's answer to that is also simple.
きっとその時に情熱も執念も使い果たしてしまったのでしょう。きっと私はそんなフリーレン様の姿が好きだから一緒に魔法を追い求めているんだと思います。
So we have two examples here, Frieren and Frieren. From both you can interpret it in different ways. You can say that the relationship shapes their love for magic, for example, but what I want you to look for now is this interpretation. Interest or passion doesn't last forever. Okay, so where I'm heading with all this? What's the story behind this? Well, I work in a marketing agency. You know what that means? That means I work with narcissists. No, like all work, it gets taxing. And because this is marketing, sometimes it gets also emotionally taxing. Because we lie all the time. Oh my god, Frieren helps so much. One obvious reason is because Frieren is a relaxing show. It helps me wind down, switch gears, Stark cries, Frieren pouts, Frieren is cute as usual, I get recharged, and then I get back to editing videos because YouTube grind never stops. But behind all of that relaxing and cutesy episodes, the story and nuance in Frieren can get really sophisticated. And as a professional and as someone learned about human nature, I really respect that Frieren doesn't lie for vibes. And it's not just on this topic. I also like how, like in episode 2, Frieren apologized to Frieren because they had been searching for flowers for 6 months, but then didn't answer when Frieren asked when actually the search would end, which means Frieren didn't just magically change for plot conveniences. There's also much to praise on Frieren's self-awareness. I think the author did an awesome job combining wisdom with individual quirks from Frieren's experiences, the conflict between Frieren and Zerie, Frieren's emotional regulation, Stark turmoil. Look, psychologically speaking, although it's not perfect, there's a lot to praise. And also on the topic of interest, passion, the anime also shows it in a really human way. Interest fades, and when that happens, you need something else to keep going. And this is how to keep moving, even when passion dwindles. Sometimes the reason is other people's legacy, like in Frieren's case. But you know, it's rather too idealistic or romantic for real life. So maybe more like Richta, an ambitious person looking for more power, or like Quillbell that only considers magic as a tool and nothing more. And that's such a big plus. The nuance in Frieren is more than just philosophical mambo-jumbo. It's more than just the vibe. It's grounded, it's respectful, it has layers of interpretations. It's great. It's really great. But hold up, Jeffrey. This isn't some Frieren changed my life. It's more like Frieren gave me so much confirmation bias, I'm out here promoting it for free. Well, okay, hear me out, skeptics. Well, honestly, that's kinda wild in its own, because Frieren is the opposite of my usual vibe. You see, I'm a dark fantasy nerd. Or maybe the more correct term, although I really hate it, is grim dark. Honestly, who came up with this name? I live for that everything is bleak, everyone's morally questionable energy, but what does it have to do with Frieren? Think about this. At its core, Frieren is a story about grief. It's a story about an elf who lives too long, loses someone she unknowingly loves, and now she's holding on to their dear memories. I just explained Frieren in the most known Frieren way, by the way, and her life is far from a fluffy fairy tale. If she'd taken a wrong turn, she could have ended up bitter like Zerye, or a war criminal like Minas the Great Mage, or even died together with the hero of the South. But even so, Frieren focuses on getting through it in a positive way, and it becomes Frieren that we all know. It's bittersweet, it's introspective, and somehow, it also reshaped my outlook. It even made me rethink how I should run this channel. As someone who studied psychology and behavioral science, I know how to capitalize on negativity. And to be honest, I'm all fine and dandy using negativity as bait. I'm a marketing person. But Frieren made me rethink that. Even I, now, holding back using that juicy negativity as content. Look, I'm not perfect at it. I still use power words for hook, but in terms of overall content, I'm trying to lean more into positivity, of course. Because here's the thing. Frieren shows that even when the world's falling apart, kindness can still win. Call me naive, sure. I just know that there's a great difference between kindness and being incompetent. And this is the thing that makes me glad Frieren becomes the highest rated anime on Mal. I honestly didn't think it stood a chance, but here we are, proving that even in today's doom-filled conversations, we're still drawn to stories that uplift. And combine that with all things we've been talking about, Frieren tackles the struggles we all face daily in a grounded, nuanced, and respectful way, and then offers meaningful insights that leave us feeling more hopeful and inspired. What's not to love?